Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Long, and I'm here to rank every sorcerer skill for Diablo 4. Got a little tier list maker going on. Let's get right into it. Um, so the first set of skills we have is going to be your four here for Spark, Firebolt, Frostbolt, and Arc Lash. So the first one up is going to be Firebolt. And so we go out here, we kind of look at what the ability does. Um, it shoots a Firebolt, and it's gonna do what it does. Looks okay, not too bad. It is build enabling, so for that we'll have to give it a S tier because it seems to be the only one. The next one is Frostbolt, and Frostbolt to shoot the Ice Bolt. Kind of somewhat build enabling. I think you can kind of ditch it later on, but it does what it does. Or it does what it says it does, right? It shoots a little bolt with frost, and you get some mana back when you're hitting damage or chilled. So visually, it's okay. But I would say from a build enabling standpoint, I think it's more like an A tier. It is what it is. Then we have Arc Lash. You kind of whip it out, whip it good. It is a melee kind of ability. You have to get up there to hit, and some of the builds swear by it. I personally loved it for leveling, and then it kind of felt like it fell off, so I took it out. But for those that love it, it's pretty decent. So I'm gonna say that it's like an A tier as well. I think from a build enabling standpoint. And then the final ability we have is Spark, right? So Spark, uh, like Fireball and Ice Bolt, kind of just shoots a little lightning thingy out and does damage and does what it needs to do. So I think from a usability standpoint, I don't really see it much. So I'm going to give it in the B tier. Um, Using it from a standpoint of the endgame builds. Leveling may be okay, but after a while, it's you want to get to the good stuff. So next set of abilities we have are the core. So we have some Fireball, Ice Shards, Chain Lightning, Charge Bolts, Incinerate, and lastly Frozen Orb. So the first one we have up is going to be Chain Lightning. And this one was fun. It was a great ability. Personally loved it for leveling because you can kind of just aim and fire and it's lazy and it's great. You just shoot it into mobs and they all blow up. And it can even bounce back to you to enable it to do more damage. So example there, kind of just bounces around in that group and I don't have to think about it. So it's kind of cool. Um, with that being said though, it falls off hard. If Blizzard actually buffed it, it could actually be usable again. But I think I'm gonna have to give it a B tier. I was even a C tier at this point. I don't see a lot of builds using it, and that's a shame. Um, Next ability we have is the Charge Bolts. So this is basically Sparks Charge Bolt from D2. You shoot a little bit of Charge Bolt there, but it doesn't feel very satisfying compared to D2. The range is kind of meh compared to Chain Lightning. You do have to get a bunch of aspects so that it can pierce. I'm not sure there's an aspect where you can shoot more, but it's okay, I guess. Um, Sadly, it's not a very good skill in this game, and it's very niche or off meta, which is fine. Just the impact isn't there from using it. So I'm gonna give this a C tier as well. Then we have Fireball. Fireball, kind of does what it does, but it looks a little dinky, right? Like you expect a much larger Fireball, like D2 and D3. Um, One nice thing about this is when using it as enchantment, when you kill mobs, it will shoot a fireball at them, or a fireball explosion when they die. It's kind of cool. Uh, but here, you get this kind of explosion. It's okay, I guess. Um, Impact-wise, eh, um, for what it is. So I'm gonna give that maybe like a B tier ability. Then the next one we have is Frozen Orb, and this was an iconic Sark one in D2, right? You kind of go out there and shoot an orb and shoot a bunch of shards, but it seems like the area is so small. I remember when I used it, it used to be a Scream Y thing. It looks like they kind of scale back the shards a bit more, so the shards don't really span, as much as in the screen. Um, Impact wise, I tried it when I was leveling up. It was okay, I guess. I mean, it kind of did its job on freezing stuff, but and slowing stuff down, chilling, but just the area, they just completely like nerfed the area on it, and it doesn't feel good. I feel like they kind of just neutered it, you know, compared to D2. I mean, I was so excited when I got it D2. It's like, oh, this is a skill I'm going to use, and here it's not that great. I think it's a missed opportunity. Give it a D tier. Um, Ice shards. So I think this is like the new skill that they got, and it's pretty busted. I mean, it's a machine gun. You shoot a bunch of ice shards in direction, and you know it's a lot of shards coming out. One of the more hilarious thing about this is when there's a pack of mobs, you can shoot the ice shards at them, and it will just bounce around like so. It's almost like chain lightning in that it's a lazy skill. I love it. Oh, get out of the way. I can't get out of the way. I'm dead. Um, but you shoot the shards into a pack, and you know it kind of just bounces around until it goes out, and until all the mobs die or until the skill ends. And so it's kind of funny that you can kind of stand here and just shoot, and mobs die. So, you know, it's the machine gun build of the game, and I love it. It's the only build that Sorks have end game, one of the only builds. So it's kind of taken for a need, you know. So I'm gonna put this as the S tier ability, just because it's probably one of the few that Sorks have. Um, and then the last one is Incinerate. And this is the Human Torch thing. You can kind of torch them. Now, thinking about it, seems pretty cool. You get to torch mobs, but in practice, the ability sucks. Doesn't do enough damage. Takes a lot of mana. Even when you have all the synergies, I was trying to get it to work when I was leveling, and for a leveling build, it just didn't work. Do anything special. And see, you just get tapped from mobs off screen. Even the mobs didn't like it. So, you know, D tier. Um, okay, so moving on to the abilities, we have the next set are the defensive abilities. So this is where you have Flame Shield, Ice Armor, Frost Nova, and Teleport. So, um, unfortunately for Sorks at this point in time, you kind of do have to take all four just because there's so much CC at the top end game. Um, Flame Shield, you know, kind of does what it does. Puts a nice little fire around you, gives you invulnerability. Um, so I'm going to say that just for that, A tier. Next one we have is Frost Nova. Frost Nova is, in my mind, has always been a defensive ability. Um, Visually, it looks good. You know, you get to kind of run up to mobs and freeze them like that, and AoE around you. I think it's a little weird that it always hits an AoE, doesn't hit, you can't target it. Um, but with the current state that the Sork is in right now, Frost Nova is kind of used offensively, right? It's the only one of the few ways to make the mobs invuln, like that, and then you can kind of just do damage and kill them. And because we have to kind of take it, I'm kind of hesitant to put it in S tier, um, because I feel like it's more of like a kind of a get out of jail free card. You know, you get to pop the frozen, freeze the mobs, and you get to run away. But in this case, you actually use it offensively, which is just it essentially forces all Sorks to take it. So I think at that point I will give it an S tier just because of the defensive and offensive nature of it. But I do wish Blizzard would kind of balance the other abilities out and fix it. All right, moving on. Ice Barrier. So, Ice Barrier does what it says it does. Gives you a barrier, a little barrier up there. If the mobs would only shoot me, take damage off the barrier first before my health. When you put an aspect on it, gives you unstoppable, which is basically a CC immune, which is needed. And it's a great ability. I mean, what can I say? Not an S tier. I think it's A tier, just because it's there. Then we have Teleport. So Teleport in this game, unlike the other games, actually does damage when you hit the mob. And, I use it to get around. It's a great ability for that. You teleport through doors, and it's one of the cooler, again, iconic ability that sorcerers have. But in this game, they actually made teleport an offensive ability. Why? How? Well, combined with a unique, it sucks the mobs in onto when you teleport, and then you can frost over and blow them up. But even without that, I think teleport is just an S tier in itself. So we're going to rank it as such. All right, the next set of abilities we have is going to be the Conjuration stuff. And this is where I kind of have to wonder what Blizzard was thinking. So the first one we have up is Hydra. Hydra, definitely iconic ability from 2. You summon some dragon heads and they shoot fire at the mobs. I used it while I was leveling up, and it did okay, but it kind of fell off because I think there was a nerf or something happened and the damage isn't there. With that being said, though, you can you can you can summon another, or it gives it a fourth head, and then eventually you can get a fifth head Hydra on it when you use it as an enchantment. Um, but I do wish you can summon more than one Hydra. You see, when I summon another one, the first one disappears. There are aspects that will change the behavior of that, meaning you can have more than one Hydra, but it reduces the duration, and so it's kind of like still a net gain, but not as much of a gain. I just wish it was more like P2, where you can summon as many Hydras as you can, um, while having a slight cooldown. So that is kind of a missed opportunity from Blizzard, but overall, visually, it still looks pretty damn cool. I'm giving this an A tier ability. The next one is Ice Blades. I honestly have no idea what they were thinking when they made this. You cast it, there's a blade, and it kind of follows you around, and it's supposed to follow you around. It's supposed to kind of home in on the mob and do some damage. The problem is that visually, I can't tell whenever I use this ability whether it actually worked or it did something not. Case in point. It looks like it's attacking. It does minimum damage. And then that's that. Disappears. No impact whatsoever. The worst part is if I cast it far away, it takes a sweet time in getting to the enemy, thus using up some of its duration. It really should just blink on top of the mob it's hitting and just attack them, and maybe do some more. And it has this really long cooldown. The ability is just bad. So if I had an F tier down here, I would put it in F tier, honestly. But this is D tier, so it's slow as it goes. Lastly, the final ability we have is Lightning Spear. Visually, it looks pretty sweet. Looks kind of like a homing laser, you know, kind of reminds me of the guy from, what's his name, from Guardians of Galaxy 1, 2, and even 3, where he can whistle and it shoots a little, kind of the needle around. Kind of reminds me of that. Here, it's kind of doing the same thing. You shoot it, and it kind of just hits mobs, and it'll go randomly. It'll just randomly hit mobs, and I'm sure there's a couple of aspects you can play around with it. But I didn't really explore too much into it. But for what it is, it works, I guess. Probably on the same tier as Hydra, but since I didn't really experiment with it much, we're going to drop it to a B tier. Next set of abilities we have is going to be the mastery stuff. So we have Firewall, Blizzard, Meteor, and Ball Lightning. I think Ball Lightning is a new one, but let's start from the top, which is going to be Firewall. So Firewall, iconic ability from D2. It does what it says it does. It works. There's an end game build with it. Mobs get set on fire. There's a couple of synergies set to Burning and Firewall as well for mods that you can spec to. So I think it's definitely going to be an S tier in terms of presentation and how its capability in game. Next ability we have is Ball Lightning. I think this is a new one. I don't remember this in D3 at all. But Ball Lightning, you shoot a Ball Lightning out, and it does a little zappy, and then it disappears. Nice thing is you can have as many of them as your mana will support it on the screen, and I think there's ways to cast more through enchantment and aspects. But I didn't really experiment much with this, but visually, it's okay. It's a little slower than I like it to be, but it is what it is. That's going to be a B tier from me. I haven't really experimented with it much. Next ability we have is Blizzard. So Blizzard I have used. I am a Frost Sorc, so it does work. Makes enemies chilled, and then eventually once their chill threshold is reached, it freezes them. So case in point, we can Blizzard the mobs. And I think it stacks. See, they kind of freeze it. So I think it does stack when you layer it like this. Unfortunately, the damage isn't really there. It feels like it's more used as a support ability to proc the chill and freeze. But it does work. And there's a couple of aspects associated with Blizzard to cause more chill. And there's kind of a build that built around that. So for that, I will give it an A tier. Looks pretty cool visually. All right, final ability here is Meteor. And I was leveling up, and I kind of did like Meteor when I was using it. You know, kind of just targets, drops a meteor. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that impact like it did in D2, right? You have that womp and then boom, and you know it looks like the monsters fell through. Uh, I was kind of also expecting a kind of a dinosaur extinction level of damage, and kind of disappointed. You know, I kind of expected the sound effect to be a little bit better here, and it's kind of falling flat. It just feels like I'm throwing a tennis ball at a wall in terms of impact. So I'm gonna give that a C tier. Uh, Blizzard, if they change this and update this, definitely has the opportunity to move up. So lastly, we have the ultimates. So the ultimates, I'm going to start with the fire one. Uh, we have 3 here in this grouping, but I can only take one at a time. So the first one's going to be Inferno. And Inferno, I think, is one of the really cool ones. I feel like Blizzard spent all their budget on this one ability. Uh, these have a long cooldown, so I'm going to find a pack of mob. But basically, when you use it, it's not like a giant snake. You know, does a constricting and pulls them in. I mean, that is pretty damn cool. That's a lot of burning damage. Just presentation-wise and kind of the surprise factor. You know, definitely S tier. They could have called it Fire Snake, and I would have been fine with it instead of Inferno. All right, so the next one, I gotta unspec here, is going to be Ice, Deep Freeze. So Deep Freeze, when you use this ability, is going to give you basically immunity. Let me move to a different key so I don't accidentally hit it. It's gonna give you immunity, and the immunity is really nice. It breaks CCs. It kind of gives you a little bit of a kind of just to kind of cool down, look around situation, right? When everything's become so hectic. So if there's a pack of mobs, you're like, oh man, I'm dying here. I have no potions. And go immune. It does some damage and can eventually freeze them. It also lowers the cooldown of your other abilities, and then you can continue blowing them up, or you can, get out of town. So I think from that standpoint and visual and usability, definitely an not quite an S tier. I would say it's an A tier ability. It's usable. It's pretty good. Um, then the last one, oops, is Unstable Currents. To again respec out of it to put it in. And Unstable Currents, when you use it for 10 seconds, whenever you cast a shock spell, you get a random shock spell of the other ones that are cast, and then you have a couple of these other ones that support it. I didn't really use this, but I do know that there are builds using Unstable Current, and let me just put in put in some other shock abilities so that we can see what it's going to do. So essentially, you pop it up, you pop the ultimate, and you want to use the other lightning ability so they can have a chance to fire more lightning abilities. I think that testing it before, the visual aspect of it is like 0. Okay? It doesn't do anything, right? So you pop it off, kind of just does that, and then there's really no visual impact, unfortunately. Um, all these other things we're seeing here is really a result of seeing the other abilities that were there, right? Like chain lightning, ball lightning, etc. I wish that the visual, there was a bit more of a visual impact to the character while it's up. I mean, it's only 10 seconds, right? Like it's not that big a deal. Um, so kind of a missed opportunity. Usability, I haven't used it, but people swear by it. So we'll just go mid-range and give this a C. Um, but with that being said, we have a good kind of selection of abilities here, just visually impactful, or kind of the S tier ones, and kind of build enabling, and then we have everything else kind of below that. With that being said, I'll go ahead and link this tier list. Let me know what you guys think, whether I was kind of on the ballpark with this or not. Yeah, let me know. I'll put it in the comments and the description. And thanks for watching. See you guys next time.